This is the age of the multi-dimensional self.
Hi there, it's Kelly here from Divine Alchemy Healing, and today I'm really delighted to have Anita Peggie from Belinus Lodge Gatherings with us. And how are you today, Anita?
Yes, really good. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, I can just tell. So, do you want to tell us, first of all, how you got into working with pendulums and dowsing rods? What led you there?
Well, I haven't been doing it too long compared to a lot of people. I would say it started in about 2019 was my first run-in with a pendulum. And we make camper vans,
Right.
rustic camper vans. And we had one for sale, and this I often put them onto women's groups because I want women to feel confident and that they can trust us to give them a good product, things like that. So this lady had asked if she could buy our camper van just from a comment. I didn't even put it up for sale, and I was explaining to her that we were trustworthy without trying to sound scammy and silly, and she said, "You better be, because I'm a high priestess." So she came to buy the camper van, and hanging in my window was a crystal on a chain, and she said, "Do you know that's a dowsing pendulum?" And I said, "No, I just put it up there because it looked pretty." And she showed me it, and she showed me how to do the yes no, and that was me, the beginning of it. I didn't do very much with it, and in lockdown I got in touch with somebody that was at my boarding school, and it was a very tenuous link because she was about 4 years older than me, and I had just admired her from afar. Her name's Joanne Huntsman, and she runs an intuitive development cafe. And she started talking to me about pendulums, and she seemed to know a bit more about it. So she showed me how to spell out. She said, "Ask the name of your guide and spell it out." So I seemed to be stopped at every post, so I made a computer thing with all the alphabet on it in big letters to try and dowse, and it wouldn't print, and then I ended up writing it out. And to my astonishment, the spelling out when I asked about my guide was Doris, which is my grandmother's name. So then I was straight away in touch with my guide, who's been with me all the way through and joined by many others now. And I soon made one of these, which is an alphabet board with pyrography.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Yeah. So I hold that in my hand like that, and I can dowse with it very easily and spell out. And soon you find that you only need the first letter. You know what they're saying. That knowing that you get with a pendulum.
Yeah.
So at that point, we were building the camper vans, and I was just doing this sort of occasionally. And then I got more and more interested, and I discovered Eric Hunter.
Yeah. And
more recently, Raymond Grace, he's really my sort of guy because he's so down to earth and another human mountain man. If anybody's never met him, you should look him up. But Eric was very good at, I was doing a lot of his courses and learning on that. And now it has developed so that I run courses and teach other people how to do pendulums.
Wow. And you live, is it at the top of Scotland you are? Because I'm terrible with the geography, but whereabouts are you in Scotland?
We're just about 20 minutes from the Forth Bridge in Dunfermline. And Dunfermline is an incredible place. I've lived here for 35 years. I had no idea where I was. So last year we were up for moving. I had decided James was still building the camper van. He still is, but we thought he would be doing it good style, and we wanted a big barn for him to build in because he's always built outside. So we looked for another place to live. And then after a while, we decided to stay where we were. And at that point, I discovered that our house and workshops was right on the Belinus line, or Belinus line, as some people call it, which runs from the Isle of Wight right up through the top of Scotland. It can be called the Spine of Albion.
Yeah.
And it passes through both James's woodworking workshop and my Belinus Lodge workshop.
Wow.
Through Abbey Graveyard and the Palace, and through Dunfermline. It's incredible. So we started exploring the energy of Belinus, but what we didn't realise is that we have already been working with it for about 10 years, as long as we've been building camper vans.
Wow.
And the reason, so I don't know a lot about the logistics of it, I just know how it feels. And it's a lovely, lovely energy. While we've been building the camper vans, it's without exception, people come into the vans and they say, oh, I can feel the energy. I've got goosebumps, or I can, and they become aware of it. And there is this magical energy, and I didn't really know why. And now I do. So I know that we've been working with this good energy. The place where the camper vans are actually built is right on the line.
Wow.
And so I know how it feels and how wonderful it is, but I don't know all the logistics. I do know that it meets in Dunfermline Palace, where we were yesterday, in Dunfermline Abbey, right at the altar. Wow. There is the Belinus line, and then there are 2 dragon lines which wind around it all the way along. And one is, the female one is called Ellen. I haven't heard of a name for the male one. And the 3 of them merge on the altar at Dunfermline Abbey, and also just a little bit further along in a place called Malcolm's Tower, where Malcolm and Margaret were. And also in the place where I do my courses, which is Pure Craft, a little shop that only opened in September, we discovered that she's right on it as well, which is incredible. So there's a lot of energy going on. So it's quite amazing.
It's sort of the magic of the universe. When it wants you to do something like that, it sort of makes it like everything is aligned to that, isn't it?
Yeah. Just incredible.
Who was Malcolm and Margaret?
So they're ancient kings of Dunfermline. Dunfermline used to be the capital of Scotland.
Yeah.
And the palace goes back to the 11th century. What I discovered yesterday, we were out with our dowsing rods. We have dowsing rods here. You said you were interested to know about these.
Absolutely.
So these are just pieces of fence wire.
Right.
And we first tried them out here on the Belinus line where we are. Yeah. And when they touch the Belinus line, they cross like this.
Okay.
And then you can trace it all the way along.
Wow.
And we've been using these on the courses as well, on the pendulum courses. And I gave them out to everybody on the pendulum course a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't know what was going to happen. It was in the shop. And there was 2 people that couldn't do it, actually.
Right.
Like I and a lady that worked with crystals. But everybody else, they just all went in the same direction like that. And they just pointed right through the shop, which was just incredible.
Yeah.
So last Friday, we decided to douse the graveyard. So we went into Dunfermline Abbey and we doused the graveyard, and we followed the 3 lines. We picked them all up, and without question, our rods all went in the same direction.
Wow.
And it just felt so magical. And I was out, it's addictive. I was out doing it again with somebody yesterday morning. It just feels invigorating. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
We're actually going to the Isle of Wight next weekend.
Oh,
I'm going to find out where the Belinus line runs in there, because I might take my dowsing rods with me.
Oh, you must.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be wonderful. Like, cause we feel more connected to you even through that,
Yeah.
But what made you start with the dowsing rods then? Was that another thing that came after the pendulums, or had you already been doing that?
No, I'd say it came after. Probably I've just seen it online, I would think.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing was, one day, James isn't really, my husband, he's developing, but he's not into it like I am. Yeah. And I looked out of my living room window, and there he was dousing the line, and his jaw dropped. So did mine when I saw him doing it, when he saw it working. So I haven't had anybody here that can't pick up the line.
Wow.
So you have dowsing rods, don't you?
Yes, I've got some here, because it would be lovely to just quickly, for beginners who, maybe like me, they've got some, and then I suppose because I'm very pendulum orientated, I haven't had much of a chance to really play with them or use them. But when you're holding them, for example, is it a light grip that mine just nearly knocked me out?
Yes, I would say a light grip, but what I've noticed with yours, see, James makes the pendulums, and he could very happily make beautiful holders for these, and I had that in my plans for him.
Cool.
Until I found out that you might be better holding it with your bare hands.
Right.
I would suggest you take yours out of your holders.
Oh, is it? I didn't even know they had.
Well, you're not. The holders are designed to use exactly the way you've done them.
Yeah.
But I, the lady was wearing gloves and she could not use it. And as soon as she connected the rods with her bare flesh, that's when it made the difference.
I'm gonna unscrew it. I had no idea that was even a holder. I just thought it was part of it. So that shows how nice.
So do they come out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
let me just.
they are designed for you to use them exactly how you did, but I find you get better results if you've got them in your hand. And then just loosely hold them. You might see like this. Just loosely hold them.
Now this one doesn't want to come off, would you believe? One, yeah, straight away came off. But
yeah,
I mean, I'll stick this one. I'll just use this without and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, this hand definitely didn't feel as connected.
So can you put the one that hasn't got the holder into the hand that you're having trouble with?
Yeah, I've just done that. So.
And what do you think?
Let's just see. So shall I just say give me a yes and a no?
Yeah, try that. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Rods, for showing me your yes. Your yes. Oh. Yeah, that's moving better now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was trying to move, but it was almost like it just wasn't.
Yeah. It needs a connection with you, just as a pendulum does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I've somewhat neglected this because my days are so full of others. Oh, there we go. So what other things would you use a dowse? So you would get
I don't really use them for yes no in that way. I know it's done. I know there's a girl online that you can send in questions and she'll get the answers off the dowsing rods. But I use them for dowsing for energy lines and things like that. So I go out and I use them and they respond, like they dance in your hand and they respond to energy, and then you can feel it coursing through you, which is the way I use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it just a sort of matter of practice? The more practice, the more sort of connected you'll become with them.
I think quite often you're there right from the beginning.
Yeah.
You take a set of these in your hand and you go where there's an energy line and you just pick it up straight away. It doesn't need any training.
Sure.
So I haven't found anybody. I have, as I say, in the shop there was 2 people that couldn't do it. I haven't taken them dowsing into the graveyard or anything.
Right.
But I'm sure given that they would be able to do it. And it's this connection with your hand rather than with the holder. But that's just me.
Yeah.
There must be a reason why people put dowsing rods with holders, but I don't know what the point of that is. That would be like having a pendulum that isn't connected to you.
Yeah, it's that, isn't it? And I mean, because mine, they didn't really come with any instructions.
No.
So I was sort of like, okay, that's how they are. I mean, in some ways, that one in this hand, it moves quite nicely within that little rod holder. But the other one, when I use this hand, was not moving anywhere near as fluid as it is now.
Yeah. So there you are. So try it if you can get the other one off, and then just go out and have a look about where you are and ask. It's like with a pendulum, you set your intention, what you're looking for.
Perfect.
So we set the intention. We were looking for Belinus. Some people call it Belinus. I don't quite know how it's pronounced. I call it Belinus. And then we set the intention that we were looking for Ellen, which is the female one. The interesting thing is she goes right through from the abbey and through the palace. There's an ancient ruin of the Dunfermline Palace that goes back to the 11th century. And there's also a townhouse in Dunfermline that only goes back to 1880 something. And incredibly, when you look at it, you take it for granted you can live here for 35 years as I have and not looked up. But when you do look up, it's full of carved dragons and everything, even right over the door. There's loads of them. Yeah. Gargoyles, plaques, and there's this plaque around the side and it's got a straight line and 2 dragons.
Wow.
It's incredible. And I was just reading this morning before I came on, and some parts of the townhouse are taken, some of the plaques are taken from the palace. which takes them back a lot further. Takes them back about 1,000 years. So there's something that the ancients knew, you know, about this.
Telling us as well, aren't they, with the symbolism of the building and things like that. They're sort of, they're marking it out, but we've probably maybe just because of modern life become almost a bit, yeah, that's nice, but not really taking on anything more than that.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you ever use the rods like in your home to detect energy or anything like that, or?
I don't. I'm not a big experienced user with rods, but I love them.
Yeah.
So I've also started with bobbers. I can't show you that because it's underneath this camera and it will disrupt the film. But that's another thing. Have you ever used a bobber?
A bobber? No. What's a bobber?
So that's for another day. It's a piece of wire on a handle with a sort of a weight at the bottom.
Oh.
And it bobs up and down. It's really. I'll do that another time. I'll show you, demonstrate that another time.
Wow. I mean, my partner, he lives right next to an old ruin in Guildford. It's just outside of Guildford, but it's believed there's a ley line running through that as well. So I'd love to go up there.
That's where you go with your rods. Yeah.
Actually, when you first put up that picture of the spine of Albion, I actually thought it was running through. It's called St. Catherine's Abbey. But it's actually about 15 miles away, but it's got its own ley line apparently that goes.
Yeah. It could have one of the dragon lines though.
Yeah, I did read about it, but it was a couple of weeks ago. My memory now, I can't remember. Yeah. It said there was a ley line running through it, so, and it's a
guy called Gary Biltcliffe that wrote the book called The Spine of Albion.
Right.
And when I was wondering about it, I emailed him and I said to him, where does the ley line go after it leaves Dunfermline Abbey? Because I had a feeling it came down our end.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I did this, but I sent him a pin. I'm the most untechnical person there is, but somehow I sent him a pin of where I live. And he said, oh, you're right near Easter Gelert. And I said, that is my house. I am on Easter Gelert Farm. He says, well, that's the real power point of the ley lines of Belinus. So that's how I found out. So he's the guy who wrote The Spine of Albion, and with that picture that you're talking about. So yeah, him and Caroline Hall. So yeah.
I have to get that actually because it's.
And then I went to have you ever heard of Vida Austin? She does The Memory of Water.
Ah.
So she was giving a talk at Pitlochry Festival Theatre an hour up the road, and I went to that. And that's on the Belinus line as well, which I didn't realise. And so I went down to ask if Gary was there, who had written the book. I went to ask the host, and he wasn't, but it did contact me. It put me in contact with the guy called Graham Gardner, who's an expert dowser. Yeah. And also the girl I was talking to was Margaret Bambrick. And now, the other night, we all got together to start the Scottish Dowsers, which is to be a group in Scotland, because mainly it's based down south.
Yes.
So we're reviving it up here now and getting everybody that's interested. And people that joined that were as far at the very, very top of Scotland and on the Isle of Wight and different places. Everybody feeling a bit isolated on their own, and because they talk to stones and they douse, and everybody thinks they're crazy. But we're joining together now.
That's so lovely, isn't it? I mean, that's part of the reason we've been doing these interviews, is because we want to build a community of like-minded people, really. And everyone's got slightly different ways of doing things, but you learn from everybody. And it's a lovely thing, isn't it? To have, to know other people around that you can connect with. So when you've doused and find the ley line, do you ever do healing on it or anything like that, or do you utilize it in different ways?
I have done here just to check that everything was fine. I feel like there might be more to do in the graveyard. It might be a little bit beyond me, and I might need to bring in somebody a bit more experienced. But the general feeling of Belinus is lovely here anyway. I don't know what it's like all over the country, but here it's a loving thing. It's a lovely energy. So
that's so
We also have our pendulums, and this particular one.
My goodness. Okay, yeah. Which one's that?
So James went in. Can you see that? Yeah.
Beautiful.
James went into his workshop one day and made that for a joke.
Right.
He came out and he brought me it. He's thinking, now what are you going to use that for? So I was thinking, oh, I'll use it to demonstrate that we make pendulums. However, it has amazing energy, and it's a shaman.
Right.
So one day, not that long ago, a couple of months ago, I discovered that pendulums have archetypes.
Yeah.
And all of my pendulums are different. Even two pendulums can come out of the same piece of wood, and they can possess different archetypes.
Wow.
You don't know until they're made and you test.
Yeah.
There's only maybe a dozen archetypes that there must be 100 nods archetypes altogether, and there's about a dozen that pendulums seem to take on. So they're usually things like guide or healer. Is yours a healer?
I think you said mine was a guide. I can't remember.
Oh, yours is a guide.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this particular one is a shaman, and the energy that it holds, it's made of like yours out of Indian rosewood.
Beautiful.
And it came probably from the same piece of furniture that yours came from.
Yeah, it looks so different, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. But it's wonderful for grounding, and it's very, very powerful. If you give it to anybody that's got more sensitivity than I do, they sort of hold it in their hand, they can feel it. It's very amazing. So no joke. And there's been about another 3 come out since then with the same archetype, the same size.
Wow.
So that's quite incredible. But we never know what we're going to get.
You do a range, don't you? You've got a few different ones.
We have, yeah. I always have I've got a box. Actually, James made one yesterday out of walnut. And here it is.
Oh, wow.
And, I just fell in love. I must have about, in my magic box, I must have about 10.
Yeah.
And I felt I had to put one out to get one in. I just felt I can't just keep taking them. James makes me, there's another pendulum, dear. And I want that one.
Yeah.
And I can't part with them. But this is just a particularly lovely one. And it's got the archetype of witch.
Right.
And it goes very nicely with my other favourite one, which has got the archetype of wizard.
Oh.
So the two go together.
Wow. Yeah. So nice. And so you sell these, but you don't make loads by the sounds of it. Is it as and when they sort of come?
I've got a box with a dozen or so in it, and we keep it filled up. So I would never want to sell them on a commercial basis. But for everybody that comes on our courses, or anybody that asks, I like to be able to say they could have one, and they can be drawn to one and pick which one they want. But and we do have about 4 at a time in the craft shop.
Okay.
But I'm not interested in becoming a pendulum producer in the way that we used to be. I used to sell Highland cows made of wood with dreadlocks. I don't want it to turn into get an order for 30 Highland cows or 30 pendulums, and you feel like you work in a factory. They're special.
Of course.
People can have them. They just have to ask us, and we can produce them. And we're very happy to do that. So they can still get in touch with us if they want one, and I'll show them the current stock, and then they can just pick which one they feel drawn to. And it's a very personalised thing like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, actually, even when you sent mine and the lovely little covering that came with it, which I've got here. Yeah. It's just so lovely, and there's just something so sort of handmade, and I love that sort of feeling that it's been made with care.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested in getting a very special pendulum from Anita, is it best to contact you through your Facebook?
The Facebook page, yes.
Yeah. Which is Belinus Lodge Gatherings.
That's it.
We will put it on the screen so that people can see it underneath the video, because they're just absolutely beautiful pieces.
And interestingly, the pouch is the fabric. It's handmade felt, and it comes from a very, very dear friend who made the book covers for the Prince of Wales gardening books.
Oh wow!
Beautiful, great big book covers. And they had a side business at a time called Book Cover Bears, and they made teddy bears. But I get all the offcuts.
Wow.
And then I got my little pendulum pouches from them, because it's just lovely, isn't it? It's lovely to touch. But it's handmade felt, that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
yeah.
And so with the pendulums, I know, you know, Anita and we swapped, so we sent her the books and she sent us this pendulum. How have you been finding them, and are you using them in your pendulum workshops?
I am. Everybody loves the books and the charts. I've got 3 and I put them all out and they just all sort of gobbled, you know, they clamber over them and sort of swap them. So I don't know if you've had any sales from that. I would hope that you have. But when I hold the workshops, people love them because they're at the beginning. And the pendulum charts are fantastic. And the instructions you have, they won't get much chance when they're in the workshop. But when the way that Kelly does her books, you've got clear instructions in the beginning how to find out so many things. And if you didn't have the charts, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
Write all these things out, but it's all there in the books. So it's there for you to find out all sorts of things about yourself and what to work with on that particular day, and it's just great. So you don't really need to go further than the books, I don't think, than the charts.
I mean, it was designed with this Archangel Metatron, who came in specifically when I started working with, well, asking the right questions. And that's something he's always said to me, is you need to ask the question for us to be able to give you the information. You can't just take it for granted. Occasionally they do give me a download, like they gave me one the other day saying about releasing yourself from labels that people have put upon you.
Well, that's good.
As I was falling asleep, I was like, I hope I'm going to remember this in the morning. I'm not getting up and writing it now.
A strong one that I got is don't follow leaders. I mean, it takes me back to Bob Dylan's song where he's holding up all the bits of paper and he goes, don't follow leaders.
Yeah.
So I try not to do that. I'd be careful, although I really admire people like Eric Hunter and Raymond Grace and other ones. I try not to treat them like they're the leader. And when I run my gatherings as well, I run them as a sharing. And I hope people don't see me as a teacher, because no way am I. I'm just somebody that's discovered things and can share the things I've learned. So
sharing is, I think that's a lovely way of thinking about it, isn't it? Because it keeps you on a level with everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's got something to share, you know. And we just learn and pick up, and we can take what bits resonate and leave it. They might not be right now, but they might be right in a couple of years' time or something.
Exactly. Yeah, don't sometimes buy a book and you really thought you needed it, and then you don't read it, and then you come back to it and then it resonates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny, I've got a book on the bookshelf that I've had for probably maybe 25 years.
Wow.
And I read it's called We Are the Actuarians, which of course now people are talking about the Actuarians all the time, but which is a high dimensional, I hate calling them aliens, ET race, let's say, off planet. Yeah. And yeah, it's weird because the first book by this lady who was called Nora Milanovic was called The Light Will Set You Free, and I devoured it, and I've still got, I mean, the Actuarian book, I like every now and again I think about it and I think I must read that book because I have other writings, but it's still not quite the right time for me. Yeah. But one
sounds great. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got it because you know, often I buy books and then they're out of print 10 years later or something, so I've got quite a little treasury of different books that I've picked up over the years, you know, and I might not, but I've got them here for when
I've got loads. I'm a compulsive book buyer, unfortunately. There was an interesting thing about a book, actually. I got some books by a guy called Patrick McMahon.
All right.
And he had them channeled.
Yeah.
He was an Irish gentleman. He's passed now. And there are some great YouTube videos of him just sitting on a chair explaining some of the stuff from his books. And there's pictures of him on the back, of course, and then there's the videos, you can see what he looks like. Yeah. And my friend went to a medium. I was with her, and she actually drew my grandmother. She could draw people from beyond.
Yeah.
And she drew a picture of my grandmother, which was amazing. I showed it to my mother, and my mother, she's 91, and she said, oh, I know when that was taken, as if it was a photograph of her mother. So she did recognize her. Anyway, this lady drew this guide of my friend, and it was Patrick.
Wow.
So I said, I know who that is.
Yeah.
And then I showed her the videos and that was her guide. So, you know, and yet his books were all quite comforting about what happens next after you pass, and they were channeled. So she's in touch with him, and he's got a real sense of humor. And she's Irish as well, actually.
I love the Irish.
Yeah.
I was married to a Scottish man, so I have he lived in Wick.
Oh,
that's
way up north.
Yeah, he was brought up, but there's something about all the different, even, you know, I love every area of the UK. I think it's a really beautiful place, and we're really lucky to live here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they all have their own little sort of identities, don't they? And I sort of, we've got our lovely dog, but we've always said when he's sadly passed over, we're going to travel around the whole of the UK, because there's just so much here that, like.
So what you need is a camper van.
Yeah, we do. We need to drive as well. I need a driving one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ride a little electric moped, which only goes about 20 miles an hour max, because you don't
you
don't need a license for it. But yeah, I've my fields of vision have been lasered out in trying to save my eyes, because I had 2 detached retinas. So I really hope is that Frog decides he would like to learn to drive. Get one of your camper vans. But
there you are.
Tell us a bit about that, because that's interesting. What led you into it?
Into the camper vans? We've never been anywhere. We never even had a passport.
Right.
And it got to, well, it'd be 10 years ago we were at that stage. We only broke that 2 years ago and went out the country for the first time. But we decided that we would go on a big trip, and it was £1,000 a week maybe to hire one of these big camper vans, something like that. We had £2,000 saved up. And that's all the money we had to our name.
Yeah.
And our daughter said, Dad, why don't you build one? So we borrowed another £500 off them. And we bought this rusty old transit van, and we changed it into a camper van. You know, we had it fixed, the bodywork and things, as much as we could. And then we were inspired by quite a lot of things. Like there's a company called Quirky Campers, and they have lots of beautiful camper vans that are all wood inside, completely different to anything you've seen. So we built this camper van. We called it the whiskey truck, because it was built out of whiskey barrel. We got free wood, like whiskey barrel staves, and we made that into the cupboards and everything.
Yeah.
And then we ran out of money very quickly, and we had to sell it. And somebody came along with some carrier bags of money and gave us £7,000 for it. So then we did the usual. We sunk that into another van, sold another one, and by the end of the year, Quirky Campers said, would you hire out your camper van and be the first, because they hire out camper vans. People own their own camper van and they hire it out through Quirky Campers, and Quirky Campers does all the advertising and everything. So we said no, because we've got a cash flow problem, we need the money. And they said, well, we've got that sorted. We have got somebody who'd like a camper van, and it's a commission. They'll pay you to make them one.
Wow.
And you can hire yours out and be the first quirky camper in Scotland. So we did. The camper van was called Hamish. They all have names. And we did very well with it. And from then on, we became camper van builders. And we have now built 45 camper vans for people.
Wow.
And often they are, well, with Belinus being involved, and guides and things, they go to people who really need a sanctuary, and mostly women actually buy our camper vans. And very often they are bought with inheritances. Yeah. So again, it's from beyond. Wow. And they say, oh, my mum would have loved me to spend the money on this, and this is what she wanted. And that's how people can have them. So it's amazing.
Interested in a camper van.
Yeah.
Belinus Gatherings is obviously the place to have a look. You've got a camper van page as well, haven't you?
Yes, we're called Rustic Simplicity. We are easing off on the camper vans because James is drawing his pension now.
Right.
And, we're thinking maybe we're only doing 1 or 2 a year and thinking about other things, but we still could be persuaded, probably. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just going back to pendulums, have you got a favorite thing that you use your pendulum? Like, you know, I mean, I don't always use mine every single day, but most days I do a little simple decree, which just clears my energy field and realigns me. Is there anything that you've got as a favorite to do with your pendulum, or maybe that's
one thing I like doing is it's from Raymond Grace, and he spins his pendulum and always has to be in the right place at the right time to meet the right people. It's a very good one. I use it for I used to be in a religious cult for very
I feel like we should have about 5 hours with you.
I hesitate to call it a cult because I don't want to offend anybody that's still in it, but and I won't name it.
Okay.
But that is how I see it now.
Right.
And so for years and years and years, you prayed for things. And then I kind of thought, well, that's a bit like wishing. But I guess now with the pendulum, you do change energy by spinning the pendulum and making intentions and things. It's a similar thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I feel like, and I mean, I think we know quite a lot now, don't we, about setting intention, which I just, you know, with praying, I suppose, I think some people probably naturally do set intentions when they pray and things like that.
I think it's all connected.
Yeah. It's not always taught that way, is it? That you're an intention to bring this in. Would you be happy to just take us through that with a pendulum, the little Raymond Grace thing of the decree, just saying I'm always in the right time?
Yeah, I would say that you spin your pendulum. I am always in the right place at the right time to meet the right people, and I wish this for everyone who's watching this video.
Well, that feels so nice as well. I felt an immediate sort of grounding, but also a sense of calm.
Yeah, and it's working. It's spinning for a long time. It's a relatively long time. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Yeah.
We shouldn't advertise the fact that we do healing with our pendulums, but I think we all do.
Yeah.
So for now, you know, just for example, I sometimes travel with my daughter. She has eagles. She's a falconer, and I sometimes go in the car with her if she's got a long drive. She might be driving 4 hours to a castle in Scotland and 4 hours back. And this time she had a really heavy cold, and I didn't want to catch it. I used the pendulum. I didn't catch it. So far so good with the cold that James has got just now. Yeah. So we'll see. But and for when somebody's feeling down or a little bit sad, you can use it to lift their spirits and to send loving energy and positive energy to them. And sometimes James will say, "Have you been doing magic on me? I feel so much better." So
there's a really funny little video. It was about a couple of years ago about this guy who was married to this lovely lady, but the lady said, "I manifested you," and it's the guy's response. He said, "So I thought I was sort of part of this relationship, but now I found out I was manifested." I had no free will whatsoever. But I mean, essentially what you're saying there is, you know, with pendulums, you can pick them up and do anything pretty much.
Yes,
can't you?
Absolutely.
Help those you love or friends or anyone to live.
Just for example, I was speaking to somebody yesterday who has a new business idea.
Right.
Was asking me some questions what I thought was the way forward, and I was just able. She's a new pendulum user, but she's been using her pendulum a lot since she got it. She only did the course about 2 weeks ago. And I was just able to tell her how to make lists and write down all the questions that she might, almost like mind maps.
Yes.
And one thing leads to another, and you can go deeper and deeper in to find out how you're going to finance this, what you're going to do, who's going to help you, is anyone going to help you, or should you be doing it on your own? And all the questions down to which building it is and what the timing is around it and everything. So you can really, and what you're doing is you're tapping into the field, aren't you, that around you, to get the best knowledge in the universe, which everybody can do, you know. I don't know if I tend to not like established rules, maybe because of my beginnings. I like to be free.
Yeah.
So the things like the Akashic records, I just see that as a field of information that any of us can access, especially using the pendulum. It's all out there. It's just like the internet.
Yeah.
It's like the internet of knowledge. That's everything that's ever happened, and you can access it with a pendulum.
That's amazing. What would you, when you're working with the Akashic records, are you sort of asking yes/no questions, or are you doing something different? Or
sometimes yes, no, and then much more complex questions. Is it beneficial for this and that? And that can be yes, no questions, but then they lead in, they do tend to be yes, no, but so complex because one question leads to another and another and another. Yeah. But I also use my board sometimes to spell things out. Cool. So, and also another thing I do is channeled writing. So that can be really good if you just find, I must be about 6 guides I work with, find out which one I'm working with at that time, and start writing, and then read it back. It's astonishing what you've written. And I think that happens as well when you're writing your website about pendulums.
Yes.
You look back and you think, oh, did I write that? Because it doesn't seem familiar in any way. It's as if it's been channeled.
Yeah, and I think it's funny with channeling, because I feel especially books 1 and 2 were pretty much channeled, you know. And obviously there's lots of ways to channel. It doesn't have to be a full trance or anything like that.
No.
Opening up to receiving information and allowing yourself to access it.
Yeah.
It's just valid, isn't it? And that, you know, is the first book, which has got probably more text than any of the others. I remember I said to Frog, because Frog had seen my sort of scrappy charts and said, I'm going to make those into something beautiful. And when I saw the first one that he'd done, I said, oh my goodness, like I was thinking I could hand these out as a sort of workbook for clients. I said, but I think we should actually do something more. But what I'll have to do is sit down and just, you know, write some stuff. And 6 months later, I handed in this wad of paper. He was so like, oh my God, I had no idea there was going to be so much information. And I said, well, I didn't either when I started it, but I just kept asking, you know. Yeah. I was typing it. And, you know, even my typing, because of my eyes, is not very, it's hard for me to sort of type coherently. But we sort of put it all together and edited it, and it all just came in floods, you know, every time I put it out. So it's such a great reminder that you say that, you know, just opening up. Yeah, and I feel like people like you are being used at the moment because there is a great interest emerging. Yeah. Nearly everybody that comes into the shop looks over and sees the pendulum courses and wants to do them. Wow. Or I was mailing your pendulum actually. When I was mailing your pendulum to you at the post office, they ask you what's in the parcel. Yeah. And I was on my own in the post office. There was nobody else there, and it was a small post office. So I don't know why I did this. And I said it was a magical pendulum, that it could be quite difficult to mail magical objects. And I think you might have noticed I put a sigil on it, put a spell on it to see if it could get there. Yeah. And the lady said, oh, my nanny that I used for my children as they were growing up was a witch. Wow. And it turned out that she was the Green Witch of Aberdour. She had a witch shop in Aberdour for 30 years. Everyone loves her. And that's who it was, Christine. So it seems like before, where you might keep it quiet because people think you're a bit crazy, now they don't. No. And that's
Very interesting. Yeah.
It's just a real awakening to so many things you can do with pendulums as well. Like, you know, you can do it with charts and release work and increasing work, or you can ask yes and no, or you can just make some commands.
Yeah.
You know, there's there's no excuse not to pick your pendulum up.
That's right. And although I love the wooden pendulums, you know, why wouldn't I? I'm married to the guy that makes them.
Yeah.
But you could, if you haven't got that, you can use, well, Raymond Grace uses a bullet on a string.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So
anything you start with is, you know, I started with just crystal pendulums.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I didn't know anything more, and I actually still, you know, I still enjoy using some of my crystal pendulums. It's when they call to me, I think, oh yeah, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
But I haven't been introduced to the sort of the geometric shapes and the high vibe pendulums. I have my poor crystal ones don't get quite so much use now because I've got.
I'm afraid mine just hang in the windows in Belinus Lodge, but that's just. I mean, it had to happen for me. And it's all, you know, like some people traditionally put a wedding ring, didn't they, on a chain? Yeah. And I think one of the something that was fairly common was identifying the sex of a baby. Yes.
You know, so there's a long tradition with it, isn't there?
It's getting picked up. I drive, but I have to get the train down to my mum's because it's far for me to drive. It would just put me off that I had to drive back, and I would be thinking about it all the time. So one of her friends picked me up, and we have to chat for 20 minutes going along, or we get a lovely chance to chat, should I say. Yeah. And she told me the story about the needle on the piece of thread that they used to find out the sex of the baby. And she said it was very accurate. So that's her experience of pendulums. But she did have a lot of people, if you go back enough years, they have experience of it. Yeah. It's always been used. It's just reviving now.
That's it, isn't it? I think people are sort of going back to some of the more traditional things, including remedies, you know, flower essences and and being out in nature as well. And, you know, that's one of the things I love about the wooden pendulums is I feel like even if I'm in here doing work with my clients, I'm still connected to nature via the wooden pendulums, you know.
And yours comes from the foothills of the Himalayas. So there's the big one.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, I think the thing I feel like I want to do more actually, which you already do, is go outside with the pendulums and the rods and do out there, because I think we had another lovely lady called Mary who lives in America who does a lot of pendulum work outside with trees, and that just does something.
Oh, that's lovely.
You know? Like, oh yes, I need to go and do that, you know. And we
have a special tree here sitting in the garden, the big sycamore tree, and it's on Belinus as well. And I want to connect it. I mean, I have connected, but there's a lot I could do connecting with that tree.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had a really, really interesting life with the Highland cows and the being in all the other stuff, and a daughter that's a falconer.
I had I didn't really begin to live until I was, well, although I married well, you know, James and I got married when we were children, and we're still very, very happily married. It's 46 years in June.
Thanks.
So, and our daughter. But apart from that, I was 45 when we left the religion that I was in.
Yeah.
And before that, I couldn't even, when she was little, I couldn't even make her a set of doll's house people. Absolutely no creativity whatsoever. It was all suppressed. And when we came out to do what we did, it took a while though. 10 years after that, we still hadn't done anything, and it wasn't until our mid-50s, that we started making the camper vans. And then it was just like a coiled spring had been released of creativity. And
you unplugged.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and it's lovely. I mean, I would never say to anyone to worry about getting older. We've had a ball. Every year's been better and better.
I really feel that. I think first part of life is learning and sort of getting your feet on the ground in some ways and having experiences that may or may not benefit you, but in the long term they all do.
They do, yeah.
Journey, isn't it? But like as you get, I mean, we're in our 50s and I feel like we're just so content with life and the magical of nature and, you know,
Yeah.
the earth. And I think we are so lucky to be on this planet. It's so beautiful, you know, and you don't have to go far to find some beauty, even if it's just breathing in the air of a morning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just put your head out the door and look at the sun.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So, yeah. Yeah, Bob Dylan again, and one of his lines was, but I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just a number, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, it has to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to wrap up for today, but I'd love to talk to you more in terms of, you just sound like you've had such a wonderful sort of varied life. And I love that with, you know, a lot of people who come to this sort of work have been almost to the opposite, haven't they?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
You have to have been in prison to know freedom.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Well, thank you so much, Anita, for giving us all your time and expertise. And we really, you know, I would love to do more with you, find out more about what's going on, and, you know, hopefully one day Frog and I will get up to Scotland as well, because it is a place I definitely want to go.
Oh, you'd be very welcome. You'd love it here. Yeah.
I know, that's the thing. I absolutely know that.
Yeah.
Because I feel an affinity with it, even though I've only really been as far up the country to sort of the Lake District, which I'm sure for you is probably like, that's not north.
we do come down south as well sometimes in the van, so if we do, we'll look you up.
Yeah, definitely come and let us know.
Yeah.
I'd have a ball.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the YouTube, and put all your details underneath the video. And if anyone wants to follow Anita, Belinus Lodge Gatherings is your Facebook page, isn't it?
It is, and there will be a website, but it's just under construction at the moment. So I'll put it on there when it's have everything that you need to know about beginning pendulums. That's what it's for.
Oh, wonderful. Well, lovely to connect with you, Anita. We'll say goodbye. Thank you to everyone for listening and watching. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe if you like this content. We've got more guests coming up. We've actually got Eric Hunter coming up on the 11th.
Wonderful.
I think it's the 11th, somewhere around there. And he'll be talking about his new book, which is a tome and a half. It's about this thick. So we're looking forward to that as well. But for now,
thank you.
Wishing everyone a wonderful week. Lovely to connect with you, Anita.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Lots of love.
Whispers of the pendulum, a journey to go, guiding souls to realms where dreams convene. Kelly and Frog, the masters of the chess.